Tips and tricks on how to get avoidance talking about relationship stuff. My boyfriend is super loyal and affectionate, but becomes totally avoidant at the sign of any differences. The second I tell him I don't like something he said, or we don't want to do the same thing, he puts up these walls and can be very hurtful. I don't know what to do since talking about things invariably leads to conflict. Please, any insights will be welcome. And don't tell me to leave him. I love him and I'm trying to find ways to work this out. Okay. So you were doing good up until that point. Don't tell me to leave him. I love him and I want to try and face it. Okay. Well, I wasn't going to tell you to leave him, but I will say that when you lock yourself into a situation like that, you are cutting off the possibilities and you're not going to be really open to hearing them. So even the ones that are not necessarily leaving, I don't think leaving someone is always the solution to everything. The solution is finding the resonance within yourself first. And then once you're able to show up in that way, you give someone else the opportunity to show up in that way too. If they don't, then that's when you have to give yourself permission to realize that the essence of what you want is always available and in grand supply and abundance in the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to walk away from something that you feel may be a ripe opportunity for growth and expansion. The question is if he's open to growth and expansion. Okay, so you cannot change someone. You cannot change someone, and you cannot take it upon yourself to be responsible for someone else changing. What you can do is you can stand sovereignly within yourself and you can identify those points of contrast or conflict as you're talking about it here. And you can say, I am here and I'm open and I'm ready and I'm compassionate and I'm empathic towards what you may be experiencing. And here are some of the ways in which we can move in an inspired direction so that we can find out if this really is a genuine point of compatibility. And if the thing that we're in conflict about really truly is of high value to me and or to you. And if it is something that ultimately we won't be able to rectify. Because there's a difference between engaging with conflict and contrast for the purposes of expansion and of growing in the context of a relationship. Because invariably, relationships are how we grow. There's a difference between being able to step into that and then being obstinate and saying, I am not going to be open and flexible to expanding and meeting you in that authentic place. And that's too hard for me. And I'd rather just stick it out the way things are going. And then I'm just going to listen to my attachment system and I'm only going to work on this. And I'm going to allow myself to be in a situation which is unfulfilling to me because I have such empathy for where this person's coming from. Okay, that's a boundary issue. Okay, and that's taking on more responsibility than is your due. But how to get avoidance talking about relationship stuff? All you can do is be true and authentic to yourself. But there are ways in which our communication can be fostered that it doesn't shut down the conversation before it's begun. So for example, sometimes people will broach a topic with what's called a surface structure communication, but what gets lost is the deep structure communication. So for example, someone might say, we never go out. That is a surface structure communication. The deep structure communication is, I really love you and I enjoy spending time with you and I'm feeling a need for that. Is there any way that we could work more of that in the next week, right? Sounds very different. The first one sounds critical and the second one sounds open and receptive and vulnerable, which is probably why we usually use surface structure communications, right? Another example of a surface structure communication would be like, why do you never want to talk about this? Well, the deep structure communication would be, I feel very deeply connected to you. And because of that, there's this part of me that's interested in learning a lot more about how you are experiencing things. And I feel like if I could know more about that, then it's possible that we could encourage each other to grow and expand in ways that go even beyond what we've already managed to accomplish together. And so I'm wondering if, even if it's uncomfortable for you, if there's a way that I can help you create a safe space in which we can talk about these things and not feel like if we want to do different things, and not feel like if, our interests lie in other places, that we have to be constrained by that we can't both have those things and still meet in this place together, right? So there is a way of coming from the deep structure place that allows you to approach conversations like this that are authentic. Now, that's all you can do. You can't control how the person responds. And if you know in your heart of hearts that you approach this from a deep structure place, from an authentic place of reaching out, and they still don't and or can't and or won't go there with you, then that's when you look at your values and beliefs and you decide, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how essential is it for me to have that thing, that value met in this context? How much do I really need my partner to meet me there in order to feel fulfilled in this relationship? If it's not that high, well, maybe that's just one of the things that we don't work out. Maybe that's just one of the things we disagree on in the relationship. But if it's high and it's preventing you from really stepping into the fullest expansion that you have already acquired, because you wouldn't be upset and feeling this contrast if you hadn't already acquired a level of expansion that the rest of you is holding back from and struggling to keep up with. If that's the case, then that's when your discernment comes in, and those are compatibility issues, right? And compatibility issues are real. All right, I hope that answers your question. Okay.